Hello and welcome. This is my 2022 Marin Eldridge Grade 1, which I bought from my local bike shop for a bit less than $700 in late 2022. As a sad aside, I learned a couple of days ago that the shop is closing in 2 weeks. Dang. A story for another video, perhaps. The Marin is a nice 27.5er hardtail, and I admit that I really like the black paint with the blue graphics. Now, I got the medium frame size, combined with a relatively short stock stem and a handlebar with a slight rise. It gives a nice upright riding position, which I prefer. I've upgraded the pedals, the grips, the wheels, and the tires, and added a dropper post. Most recently, I replaced the SR Suntour XCM spring fork with a Rock Shox Judy silver TK air fork. Now, to be clear, the stock XCM is a pretty good spring fork with 120 millimeters of travel in this application and a manual lockout to make climbing smoother. The TK has 120 millimeters of travel in this application, and it's also available from 80 millimeters to 130 millimeters of travel in 10 millimeter increments. It has a manual lockout on the drive side stanchion and a rebound adjustment on the bottom of that stanchion. Now, I run the fork rebound at 1 click faster than the middle setting. This seems to be the best for the kind of non-technical riding which I prefer. I initially ran the pressure at 125 psi since I'm kind of on the heavier side. However, that seemed to make the ride fairly harsh on my first shakedown ride with it. So this time I reduced it to 100 psi, and that really improved the ride quality this time. Now, I would not say it was plush, but it certainly wasn't bone-jarring anymore. In fact, with these settings, the TK gives the bike a slightly firm ride, but not so much that it feels like a rigid fork, and at the same time not so soft that it feels like I'm riding on marshmallows. The TK really handled these routes with no drama. It just kind of rode over them with a nice, predictable, stable feel. That's the kind of feel I like. And the vast majority of my riding is, in fact, on trails like this. I don't do jumps and drops and such. Now, I often joke that if both of my wheels leave the ground at the same time, well, something has gone terribly, terribly wrong. The Marin is a fun bike to ride the way I like to ride, with a relatively short wheelbase and the 27.5-inch wheels and tires. I generally prefer hardtails, and this is no exception. It's a snappy handler, and it's light enough at 35 pounds in stock form to be stable on descents, and with the 22-tooth small chainring, it's pretty easy to climb in it too. Plus, the TK weighs, about a pound less than the stock XCM fork, so that certainly helps a bit on the weight front. Is the TK perfect? Well, no, honestly. It is, after all, Rock Shox's entry-level air fork, for lack of a better description. So yeah, there are compromises. While it is lighter than the stock fork, it's not super lightweight. This is probably largely due to the 30mm steel stanchions. And while I like having rebound adjustment on the fork, the control is a kind of flimsy feeling plastic paddle rather than a substantial metal knob. Now, that said, it's not like I'm torquing the paddle hard on a regular basis, so I'm pretty sure it's going to be okay. And finally, I kind of wish the lock was remote operated, like on my Polygon's Epixon. When I reach forward and down to change the setting while moving, I feel like I'm risking my teeth if I have a wipeout. I sometimes kid about not being able to leave any of my bikes unmodified. And yeah, I probably could spend a little extra money up front most of the time and get a bike configured as I want it right from the get-go. But you know, for me, half of the fun of my bikes is tinkering on them. I have always been inclined to work with my hands, especially on machines, and that's a trait that I inherited from my father. Now, working on bikes allows me a certain, I'll say, creative outlet. And trust me, this is a lot cheaper than the old vehicles that I used to fool around with. At the end of the day, I feel like this is a very good upgrade for the Marin. I mean, Rock Shox is a good brand and they have a decent reputation, so really I had no hesitation in going with the TK. As I mentioned, I've been running one on my rock hopper for a couple of years with no problems at all, and so that experience gave me confidence in buying this one. I'd recommend this fork to my friends without hesitation, none whatsoever. Also, I cannot beat the price, which, to reiterate, was free. And free, hey, that's right up my alley. If you enjoyed this video, there is a playlist linked lower left for the Marin. There's a link to another video lower right. And as always, thanks for watching. I really do appreciate that. Goodbye and have a wonderful day.